people have read it. When is one time you have felt genuine, 100% fear? My wife and son were out of town, so I had a house to myself. I used that opportunity to do something I never get to do, have a shower with the washroom door open. Small things like that make me happy. Anyway, I was just getting out of the shower, when without a sound I see someone's head slowly go by in the dark corridor outside the washroom door. I nearly shat myself in terror. The doors were all locked. How did anyone get in? And there was something unnatural and menacing about that slow, silent guy by the door. Like they must have known I was there, but they just didn't care. Plus, whoever it was really tall. The head was 7 feet off the ground. My heart raced so fast I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Wet and terrified, I peered out of the door, to find the mystery solved. The head was my son's helium balloon toy, partly deflated over time, floating by on the slight air current. In short, I had nearly been frightened to death by my kid's toy. Not my proudest moment. True story, I've weighed those kids' helium balloons down with little pieces of paper so that they float throughout the house without touching the floor or ceiling. Seemed like a good idea at the time until one sneaks up on you when you least expect it, silently. It was 5 years ago, almost to the day. I was home with my 2 daughters who at the time were 3 and just over 1. I was giving them a bath, kneeling on the ground, and all of a sudden it felt like something exploded in my heart. I remember thinking, just get the kids out of the water, nothing else matters. I got them out of the water and was able to call an ambulance. I was taken to the hospital and long story short, I had blood clots in both lungs and my right knee. They think a piece of the knee blood clot broke free and passed through my heart. I am very lucky to be alive and so grateful I was able to get my daughters out of the tub. I found out I have multiple blood clotting disorders and am on blood thinners for life. But I am alive. Running out of gas in my boat with my girlfriend in open water during a storm this year. Ended up on a shore trying to hold the boat while a friend brought us more fuel. Honestly thought the waves would wash us away and drown. I hate when something goes wrong with a boat. It's the worst feeling. You feel so alone, like no help is going to come to you. Like my dad, who, though it was a great idea to buy a new boat then sail it all the way through the Chesapeake to his dock, he didn't know what buttons did what. His engine died midway through the bay, so he was stuck drifting for a while till it magically turned on. He also have no direction as the GPS that was on the boat didn't have the location far from shore. So he was stuck using a paper map to check on the boys to make sure he was on the right track. He also almost ran out of fuel just before he got back. Needless to say, he didn't sail far from his dock for the next few years. Driving to Alaska on the Yukon, came around a turn and standing in the road was a mother brown bear and 2 cubs. I was in a 1980 Ford Courier pickup with the exterior body thickness of an aluminum can. I came to a quick halt as she faced the vehicle in a clearly protective stance. Unsure if backing up would set her off, I put it in R and sat unmoving for what felt like an eternity until the cubs ambled into the woods and she followed. When I was still a beginning driver, I basically misjudged a turn at a highway exit when it was raining. My car swiveled and turned around. Somehow I managed to get it to stop, but I ended up bumping the side railing with the back of my car, and the car turning more than 180 degrees on the road before coming to a halt. This is a very busy exit, and if someone had been right behind me, I'd have been dead. Somehow I managed to gather my wits, restart the car, turn it around, and drive off before another car hit me. I stopped at the earliest possible parking opportunity, and that was when I felt it, the fear. I just started shaking uncontrollably. This was a combination of fear and shock. But 2 years ago my now wife's landlord, roommate committed suicide. The day before he did, he texted me asking if I could come by after work to feed his cats. He said he would be leaving and wouldn't be back in time to feed them, monsieur. It was a brutal 13-hour day. I came home first, grabbed my wife who was at my apartment to come with me so we could feed his cats and then go grab a late dinner. When we arrived, we opened the front door which led directly to the stairs. On the stairs there was an envelope addressed to me, and the note inside was pretty much face value. My wife and I were joking and in high spirits on the way over there, and she really needed to pee. So she was a few steps in front of me, as I was reading the note, which seemed like a fantasy. This is where my reality turned into a hey. The second sentence was, "There's no mess. But I have killed myself and I'm upstairs in my bedroom with the door closed." As soon as I read this, I very sternly told my wife, "Get down here right now and wait outside." I made the short trek up the stairs, glanced to my right and saw his bedroom door closed. This is where my fear was at its peak, hoping this was just a fucked up hallucination. But when I reached for the doorknob and opened, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He had a large medical-sized tank of nitrous that he had rigged up to a suicide bag that he placed over his head, and secured with a headband around his throat. His whole head was so purple and blue. I could feel myself about to puke and I kind of tripped going back down the stairs and outside. I took my phone out without saying anything to my girlfriend, and she only found out when I told the 911 dispatcher that my girlfriend's roommate had committed suicide. After somewhat composing myself and heeding the dispatcher's advice, I ran back upstairs and removed the bag and began giving CPR. But I only made it like 10 pumps, because fluids began coming out his mouth and his eyes rolled open, and they were just glosses over and lifeless and gone. The paramedics said he was gone for a while and there wasn't anything more I could have done. But I still wonder, had I not gone downstairs first after discovering him to make the call, and if I would have taken that fucking plastic bag off immediately, he might have had a chance. But there ya have it, my most fearful. To anyone reading, this is the first I've ever written about this, and getting it out was very cathartic. Suicide is fucked. Please reach out if you are struggling. Life is amazing, and the friends and family you leave behind are scarred forever. Jesus. The fact that you still try to help even in the face of sheer horror like that is honorable. I hope everyone around him is doing okay. When I was 10 and my mother had a nervous breakdown, she spent the entire night hitting and kicking me while making me tell you her I hated her. She's take a break to cry in th bathroom. Ordered my sibling and I pizza. But the breaks that night were short before it was back to the abuse. Honestly, that was one of the worst nights of my life, and even after years of therapy I still have nightmares over that. It was seeing her expression change so rapidly they got me and how quickly she snapped. A few years back I was in a toxic relationship with an individual suffering from several mental illness. He refused to take medications. I had not a clue how bad it had gotten until he was driving us back to our apartment. He started rambling about how God chose him to save my soul and I was a fallen angel. He would send me back to heaven. He floored the gas on a short dead-end road and almost drove into a cement wall. I remember briefly wondering if I should put the car at 50 miles per hour, or stay in and pray the airbag saved me. He slammed the brake last minute as I was about to open the door and jump. Absolute fear. I ended up hospitalized a few days later due to other shitty relationship-related events and never saw him again. Hands down, one of the more terrifying moments of my life, but not the only one I experienced by being with him, monsieur. Where is he now? Pretty sure, last I heard, he was strung out on drugs and living with friends 7 hours away. He reached out to me like 3 years after it happened to apologize, and I blocked him without responding. when I was woken up by my dogs going nuts and found out my house was on fire. By the time I had woken up, the stairs were engulfed in flames. I truly lost all sense of what to do. Thought it was all over. Eventually got to a window and ended up throwing my dogs out the window and jumping out the window. I never would wish that feeling on anybody. Your dogs and you make a great team, monsieur. The morning of my mom's wedding, everyone relaxing, eating breakfast, clothes everywhere, cousins running around, all of the adults are on their porch chilling. I hear my daughter screaming. I run in the dining room, monsieur. There were clothes draped over the back of a dining room chair. The clothes had a metal coat hanger on them, monsieur. She had gotten the hook of the metal hanger under her eyelid. I grabbed the back of her head and slowly pulled the hook out. Put a little ice on her eye for a bit. Luckily, it hadn't hit her eyeball at all. I can't nope out of this comment fast enough. When I was trying to sleep at around 3 and felt someone press on my bed, then bag on the chair started shaking. Then again I felt something on my bed. Finally I had the courage to switch on light and found a giant rat on my bed. Damn, did you keep? I think he's the rat's pet now. I'm from the Dominican Republic. There are a lot of dogs in the streets, and they usually hang in these colmados that are in pretty much every neighborhood. My parents would send me to buy stuff almost every weekend, and the dogs would chase me a lot of the time since the colmados sell over the counter. I would have to buy whatever it was and try to not let the dogs see me. And if they saw me, I had to run uphill while being chased by 5 dogs. That was not fun. Edit. I lived in that neighborhood for 6 years, and for 5 of them it was the same dog gang every time. They got old and died.